Building a family can be a complicated, messy, lonely, and sometimes heartbreaking process. But you don't have to navigate this challenging journey alone. Welcome to the AllPaths podcast, where we support and celebrate all of the different ways there are to try to grow your family. We're your hosts, Emily, Kate, and Alexis from the nonprofit organization AllPaths Family Building, and today we're talking with Liane about her journey. Liane, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk with all of you.
So before we get into your family's story, can you just introduce yourself to our listeners?
Sure. So my name is Liane. I am a herbalist and who specializes in fertility and family building. I live and work in the Massachusetts area with my family. I have twin daughters who are just turning 16, which is just crazy to think about. And I work with people and clients all over the country through telehealth.
That is awesome. We'll be chatting after this. Sounds really great. Can you tell us a little bit about your path to starting a family, where it all began?
Sure. So when I was in my early 30s, we were ready to build our family. And like a lot of people, I didn't expect things to be difficult. I thought I'm relatively young, I'm healthy, we have nothing else going on. I jumped into it with all the excitement and hope that I think a lot of people do. And I remember it was that first year of trying. I sometimes refer to that as like the dreaded 1 year wait because you're so excited, you're trying every month, it's not happening. You talk to your OB or GYN and say, I'm ready, I want to do more. Why isn't this working? And really in that first year, there's not a lot that can be done. It's, take a prenatal and keep trying. And as much as I loved my doctor, a couple months later, I came back and I tried to like fudge the numbers, but she was totally on to me. I'm like, oh, I've been trying for a year. She's like, actually, it looks like it's been about 8 months. I'm like, oh, I just felt inside that there was something else going on or something more I could do. And I was just anxious. So eventually we got to that 1 year mark and I was referred to a reproductive endocrinologist in the Boston area. And that started us on our path to assisted reproductive technologies. We started like a lot of people with medicated IUIs, went through 3 cycles with no success, and then was referred on to IVF. And again, I remember thinking, all right, well, again, I have no diagnosis. This is just unexplained infertility. IVF is probably a little overkill, but that's okay. It'll get me there faster. And I was, again, lots of excitement and energy around that. And I remember after about halfway through my first IVF cycle, we were doing the monitoring appointments. And I got a phone call from the nurse afterwards saying, unfortunately, we have to cancel your cycle. You're not developing any eggs. Your follicles aren't developing. We have nothing to retrieve. So your retrieval has been canceled, and you're going to have to come back and talk to the doctor about the plan. And I remember thinking, I felt so blindsided. I was like, wait, I didn't know that was a possibility. I really thought, you give me drugs, I inject those drugs, we get lots of eggs, and then we move forward. I didn't know that was going to be an option, a possibility. So round 2, we did our second round of IVF. Same thing happened. I got canceled before the retrieval. I was not developing any eggs. And then we went to our third, and again, we were canceled. I remember getting a phone call. My husband and I were shopping for like bathroom faucets or something. And I got a call from the nurse saying, I'm sorry, we are canceling you again. You don't have enough eggs for retrieval and you are not eligible to do IVF anymore. So you're going to need to make an appointment with a doctor and we can talk through it, but you can't do another cycle. And again, I felt like the floor had been ripped out from underneath me. Like no one told me this was not a possibility. I kept telling myself that story. I'm young, I'm healthy. What is going on? And I remember like just standing in the, bathroom showroom crying and, finally getting home and making an appointment with the doctor. And, I can joke about it now and have a more lighthearted approach about it. But I remember saying, well, I think we've just been fired by our IVF doctor. And that was really hard. So we took a little bit of a break, not very long. I'm kind of a type A person. A break meant like we took 2 months. And I researched and found another facility in the area that might be willing to work with me. And at the same time, I started looking at holistic and integrative approaches. I brought in things like acupuncture. I met with a functional medicine doctor and started looking at my diet and nutrients. And all of that started planting the seed sort of for where I am today. But to fast forward, I did change fertility clinics, worked with a doctor who said, yes, this is a tough case of diminished ovarian reserve, but we are willing to work with you. And you're bringing in some of these other practices and modalities, and let's see what we can do. So that last round of IVF, we at retrieval, for the first time I made it to retrieval, I got 3 eggs, 3 fertilized, 2 made it to transfer. I was told both of those, the quality of both of the embryos wasn't perfect or great, but they were going to transfer both and see what happens. And I ended up with a twin pregnancy. And as I mentioned earlier, my daughters are just turned 16. So
That is so great. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And just, it's such a testament to your perseverance and the perseverance that we see so much in this community, obviously. And also just that you took that pause, even though you say kind of a short pause, but also during that time took care of yourself and researched all these other
mhm.
solutions and things you could do, which I think is so important because so much of this whole journey is out of our control. So it is nice to take any little bit that you feel like you're doing to maximize your success. And it's usually things that are just good for you in general, but they maybe enhance your chance of success with reproduction. So that is great. So it sounds like definitely your personal and professional journeys did intersect and connect. So, how did your own personal journey evolve into your professional changes?
Yeah, I think it was a whirlwind, right? Time of trying to build our family, but the seeds had been planted. I realized that I did have a little bit more control than I thought I did. I also realized the power of sort of that nervous system support and feeling like supported as a human because you can get so focused on the outcome of like, and the outcome, it starts with an outcome of wanting a baby, but then you back that up to just wanting a positive pregnancy test. And then it's backing it up to, well, I just want to make it to retrieval. Like, I just want to ovulate an egg. Like, so there's all these little micro areas where there's so many ups, downs, disappointments. And that's something that I think is important for anybody walking on this path right now, is to remember that whatever you can do to support yourself as a human, your nervous system, your stress, all of that will help you walk through that path with more grace and ease. So I found that very helpful for me during the process. So basically, understanding that things like nutrition, lifestyle, herbs can make a difference for our health and our wellness. Once I sort of had like a taste of that bug, I couldn't get enough of it. So I started with a lot of um, self-learning, online classes, things that just were feeding my curiosity. And as my daughters grew and got a little bigger, I realized, wow, I think there's a lot I can do to help support the little sniffles and the colds and the flus and all the things that we deal with as parents. And then I at some point realized, I really want to jump into this more. I want to learn more, know more. I want to help people. So I started researching programs. I went back to school. I had previously been working in a corporate marketing job that I had done for 20 years. I was traveling a lot. So I found ways to take classes online and learn more. And then I found an herbalist and teacher in New Hampshire, Maria Noel Groves, who does some in-person programs. And that was when it all really came together for me, because a lot of the online programs are wonderful, but they're very academic. And then when you start working in person as like with somebody, and you start working with the herbs and seeing how you can, how they come together in a clinic and working with people and supporting people, that's when it became very real to me. And I realized I wanted to make a career change and start doing this to help other people as well.
I love that. I love that so much. So, like you were saying, things you can do to kind of like help your nervous system, like what were the biggest supports for you during your own journey, and how has that kind of influenced, all that you do now?
Mhm. Yes. So I look at these in almost different buckets. So there's the bucket of support of the people around me. And that's, one of the main reasons why I am involved with AllPaths, because I think having a place to talk and someone, whether it's somebody in your own circle or it's support groups, I found that was really helpful for me to have. So that was one area. I think looking at some of the research and data on acupuncture and how that can support IVF protocols. And I loved that where I ended up with my last round of IVF, they had acupuncture on site so I could time it for things. That was really helpful. And then looking at safe and gentle and effective herbs that can help support your nervous system. They can be calming. These are things like adaptogens that have been studied and are safe to use while trying to conceive as well as in pregnancy. So things like reishi mushroom, that's something that a lot of people have heard about. They've gotten really popular as blending into some coffees. But adaptogens just help our bodies adapt to stress. And that's both physiological stress, emotional stress. So that was something that I leaned on. And even something like, it can sound really simple, and sometimes we minimize things when they seem simple, but a simple cup of tea can really help. It's like that nourishment to, I'm taking time to take a break. I'm going to make this cup of tea. And there's lots of herbs that are very safe when trying to conceive. There are many herbs that are not safe. And that's why I would definitely recommend doing some research and knowing what you're doing. But I loved reaching for things like lemon balm, chamomile. Those are all great to supporting our stress. And there's significant research around it. So lemon balm, for example, has been studied and shown to help with generalized anxiety disorder and attention and focus. Chamomile has been helpful for anxiety, PMS, painful periods. And we know that they're safe to use when trying to conceive and in pregnancy.
I love it. Well, the sometimes just holding a mug of tea or coffee, just that like sensation of holding a warm mug is like so comforting. But then when the things inside are great too is so important and so nice.
Yeah.
So I know I can tell Emily's dying to ask you the next question, and I feel like I'm hogging you, but I just wanted to give a shout out because you wrote a great article for us, I think either for the magazine or the blog, which people can find on our website. And I'm sure we'll put the link in the show notes with some of your advice around herbal solutions. And I found it so interesting and so helpful. So I really encourage our listeners to check that out. I feel like you just gave them a taste of what the tip of the iceberg of the expertise that you have. But I think it's great for people to hear that it's things they can find at their local store. We're not, there's obviously some more complex options, but some of it is very accessible and not scary, but it's so, I think, empowering to feel that it can really make a difference and just be at your grocery store.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kate. So I know we've talked about this before, Liane, but when you're working with a client, how do you balance the drive that a lot of folks have when they're navigating fertility challenges to try all the things and to do all the things that could potentially impact the outcome? I know from my own experience that there's such a strong desire to take back control wherever you can and to feel like you've done everything humanly possible to achieve a desired outcome. But how do you help someone maintain some sense of balance and well-being when you are ultimately in a situation where you can do everything, quote unquote, correctly and still end up without the outcome that you had hoped for in the end?
Yeah, it's really hard. And I can empathize so much because I was that person. I did go down the bunny holes of research and looking at all the things. And I will say that when I start working with a client, that's usually where we start, which is let's take a full inventory. What are all the things you're doing? What are you thinking about? What are you taking? And often it's a matter of simplifying that because not everything is appropriate for everyone. And that can be really hard to separate out when you're doing all of this. Everything from, the Instagram reel that talks about the herbs for egg quality, and then the TikTok that talks about the top 5 supplements that everybody should take when they're trying to get pregnant. And then it's coming at us from all these different areas. And what people need to remember is these snippets of information are so surface and high level, and they may be okay for generally people in general, but that doesn't mean it's going to be helpful and supportive to you. So we spend a lot of time taking the inventory and say, let's look at the research and the evidence-based data that we have to say, what are the things that are going to be most supportive for you and your partner if you have a partner? Because this is, if you're doing this together with a partner or a donor, there's an egg and a sperm, and we need to look at both of those parameters and not have the weight lying solely on just one person if there's a partner available. And so that's sort of where we start. Like, let's take an overview. Let's look at what's going on with you and what's going to be most supportive of you. And I think sometimes just having that clear plan where you can have somebody who has some experience and research and evidence to support it, to say, here are some of the things that I think are going to be supportive to you right now and why, that alone can take a lot of burden and stress off of someone's plate. And I always, even if we're talking about supporting sperm quality, egg quality, or the cycles might be irregular, or any of the other things that could be going on and contributing your fertility, the nervous system is always part of that. Stress and management. And I know I sort of said this before in the beginning, but I want every person to feel like they can walk through this path more supported because of whether it's herbs or diet or lifestyle or all of the things that we pull in. I want people to just get through this feeling a little bit better than they would have if they hadn't gone, pulled into some of these resources.
So I know you just talked about too a little bit on the sperm health. And I know we often talk about fertility as it relates to female reproductive organs, but with, male infertility, what is something you do and how do you manage herbs with men, number one, and number two with sperm health?
Yeah. Yeah. This is such a great topic. And I love talking about this because the burden usually does fall on the ovulating partner. And we know, based on when you look at the research, 20% of the time infertility is because of sperm related issues. And 30% of the time is a combination of the ovulating partner and the sperm. So 50% of the time, sperm is playing a significant role in infertility. So we can't have conversations about improving fertility without talking about the sperm. So a lot of it is, talking about those. So we want to destigmatize it, right? We want people to be more comfortable talking about sperm. Sperm parameters are on the decline globally because of lots of different theories, but we're not eating as well as we used to. We're exposed to a lot more chemicals on a daily basis. Our stress levels are higher. Like, our modern world is contributing to this kind of global decline. So I think when we talk about it from that perspective, we can somewhat take some of the emotion out. This isn't like a failure on a person. This isn't something that people are doing wrong. It's sort of happening, and we need to be aware of it. But that's when I love to talk about, once we are aware of any potential issues, and I'm always a big fan of advocating for a semen analysis sort of earlier in the process than you might be thinking, because once we know and identify any areas that are suboptimal, we can work on them. And that's where I love it. And I can get a little bit nerdy, but there's lots of herbs that have been studied that can help support sperm quality in general. We know that sperm cells and egg cells are highly susceptible to oxidative stress. So oxidative stress is when, the antioxidants in our body just can't keep up with the stressors and you start to have damage. So at a high level, we can start supporting a person with more antioxidants. And antioxidants can come from our food. They can come from some supplements. They can come from herbs. So green tea is one of my favorites because, again, it's accessible. It's easy to find. There's been some studies that show that one of the constituents in green tea called EGCG can help improve sperm parameters, likely through its ability to help decrease oxidative stress. So, And that's just one example. There's other herbs as well. Like you've probably heard of ashwagandha. It's an adaptogen. I love seeing if that's a good fit for somebody because we are getting the benefits of antioxidants, which can help the sperm quality, but we're also getting the benefits of an adaptogen, which will help somebody manage and deal with their stress a little bit more effectively. So it's like this double benefit. And I love it when we start working on something like sperm parameters, and then 3 or 4 months later, the person says, I'm sleeping better, or I'm finding I'm a little bit less reactive at work, or my stress levels feel a little bit better. That's like that's the ultimate goal. And that's so exciting when people can start feeling and seeing the benefits of the herbs.
That's great. And not just with the blinders on of focusing on only like the sperm, numbers, but the overall health contributes to the well-being and often the success as well. So that must be very rewarding to hear that.
Yeah, I think.
So what are some of your favorite resources that you share with people that are trying to grow their family, whether it be books or organizations or resources? Because, I loved what you were saying about obviously wanting people to be held more along this path and not to feel like they're alone. So where do you direct people that you work with?
Yeah, well, absolutely AllPaths. But if people are here and listening, they probably already have found you. So that's a big resource. I think it's important that people connect with the people in their community that are going to help hold them and carry them through this process in a productive and healthy way. So whether it's something like AllPaths, or if a person belongs to a church or a community, or different just different places in their world that are going to help them feel like they're getting the resources and the support that they need, I think that's a really great place to start.
That's great. And we love having you as part of the AllPaths family. So Liane leads one of our peer support groups and does so much more for us, is also on our marketing committee. So thank you so much. And obviously, so much of what you're saying obviously aligns with our mission. So it's no surprise that you're a volunteer with us, but we really are grateful for it and love having you as part of our family.
Great. Thank you.
So speaking of resources, and if this isn't public knowledge, we can definitely edit this section out, but are you open to talking about your book?
Yes, I would love to. Yes. So I have a book that is coming out in fall of 2025. And it is herbal and
Congratulations.
holistic strategies to help improve your chances of getting pregnant. And it takes people from that very beginning, like we're just thinking about it, I'm getting ready to get pregnant, all the way through some common barriers to fertility. And it involves herbs, nutrition, supplements, lifestyle. It really is, it's holistic, and it's all of the things that I wish I knew when I started on this journey. And it's what I want every client that I work with to feel empowered and to know. And I think it helps take the work that I do one-on-one with people and bring it to a much broader audience. And I'm just very excited for it to come out because I think it's really timely. And I think this is something that, could help a lot of people.
That's amazing. I can't wait to read it.
I'm so excited for it to come out.
Yay, we're getting an autographed copy.
Oh, absolutely.
I already have some thoughts about places where I want you to give talks too. So we'll have to talk about that.
I love it.
So do you have a working title yet?
The working title right now is the Herbal Fertility Handbook, Holistic Strategies to Help Improve Your Chances of Getting Pregnant. So it'll be something along those lines.
That's awesome.
Love it.
That's great.
So what is one thing you would say to somebody that's just starting out to grow their family?
That's a great question. I think I would say that it's never too soon to start preparing your body. And this is not in a stressful, panicking, I need to control everything way. This is in a way where you start thinking about that preconception period for both partners, if there are two partners, where you want to just start getting your body feeling really nourished, feeling like you have enough sleep, enough energy, enough, you're eating foods that are nourishing. Maybe start thinking about some of the herbs and supplements that can support your egg quality and your sperm quality in a very gentle and safe way. And then I would say to somebody that along the journey, feel comfortable advocating for yourself. So if you feel you're getting to that, 6-8 month mark and you are feeling like things aren't moving along as quickly as possible, look for other places where you can go to advocate for perhaps testing or other ways to support your fertility, and to be really open to all the different natural, holistic, and integrative ways that you can support your fertility that are also supporting you and your general health and well-being. And I think we touched on this already, but I will just reiterate that this is not, again, if you're going through this within a partnership, that everybody in that partnership has a role to play here. And this isn't something that falls on one or the other partner more heavily. It really is equal.
We also kind of conversely like to ask, what do you wish no one would ever say again to someone who's trying to grow their family?
Oh my goodness, where to start? I mean, I think
know.
it starts and ends with not asking somebody, so when are you planning on having kids? That is a question that is so loaded, and there's so much behind that question. And it's just really no one's business. And I wish that no one in our community had to hear that, And then I will just add in, because we've talked about a lot of the kind of natural therapies and things that can support fertility. I wish that people didn't have to hear everybody's opinion on what worked for them, because what works for one person is not necessarily going to work for everybody else. And it can put a lot of pressure on people, and people really need to approach this from the position of what's going to work for them in a really supported, guided, clear, planned way, and not feel like every person in their community is throwing, well, this worked for me, this worked for my sister, this worked for my brother-in-law. Have you tried this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Amen. I think we're going to collect all of these into some kind of retrospective of, obviously we cover this topic quite a bit about things that are helpful to say and not helpful to say. And it varies by person, but there's certain ones that I would say across the board we're hearing with every conversation. But as we were saying before, and you were saying before, these mind body solutions can be so wonderful and so empowering, but they are not meant to add stress. And like you were saying, if it's just like a flood of information and pressure, it's not going to be helpful, and you're going to feel like you're drowning in it if it's a flood. But if it's tailored to you and so thoughtfully shared, I feel like it's a really different experience and can make you feel like, I said, you're doing something in your control when so much else is not. So I think that's really great.
Yeah.
So, well, anything that we didn't ask you that you want to share before we close today?
No, I mean, I think one thing I will end with is that I think while it's so important to have a clear plan that you feel is supportive to you and your partner on this journey, one of the other things I think that is really important is to think about the sourcing and quality of anything that goes into your body during this time when you're trying to conceive or pregnant. So while we scrutinize a little bit more like our diet and what can I eat and what I can't eat, I think that goes for things like herbs and supplements as well. So being really careful that they're organic and third-party tested and coming from reputable suppliers, and maybe not sourcing online where that supply chain could be somewhat questionable. So I just think that's an important thing to consider as well, and not to add stress. It's not another thing to add on our plate. There's simple ways to guide a person through finding high quality products, but I think it's something to be mindful of as well.
Thank you for noting that. So, as I said, we're going to put resources in the show notes for this episode, but please also let our listeners know how they can connect with you and find you.
Yes. So I'm pretty much anywhere under my name, Liane Moccia. And so I'm on Instagram at Liane Moccia. My website is lianemoccia.com. My email is liane@lianemoccia.com. So I would love to interact with people and connect over on Instagram is probably a great place in the DMs. But I would love to connect with people more.
That's great. I'm glad your name was available on all the platforms.
I
That's
know, me
good.
too.
That's very good. It's good you have a lovely, unique name for that reason too.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today as our guest, and again, for being part of our AllPaths family. We really love having you, and we really appreciate it.
Great. Thank you. This has been wonderful. I really enjoyed our conversation.
We hope you'll join us next time for more family building stories and resources. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts to make sure you never miss an episode. And follow us on social media at AllPaths FB, or visit our website, allpathsfb.org, for more information about our work. AllPaths Family Building is so grateful to the members of our circle of support who are vital to our ability to provide emotional support, education, and advocacy that is open to anyone struggling to grow their families. Today, we want to give a shout out to our rainbow sponsor, Illume Fertility. Thank you for joining us for this episode. Please help spread the word so that anyone who is struggling to grow their family can join the conversation. It's an honor to walk with you on your family building journey.